melt is when I'm ocean waves.
Today on Nova Legends podcast, I have Bo Amato, Langley coach, defending state champion Langley Saxon coach. He's going to join me and preview the tomorrow's derby against McLean, top-rated McLean, and also we just to catch up. Coach, good to see you. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, you're welcome. How are you?
Hey, everything's good. Everything's
Yeah,
good. I miss chatting with you.
Well, that's not such a bad thing.
That's right.
I get a bit monotonous after a while, I think.
Yeah, well, one of the best parts about playing for Villarreal was I get to talk to you and Coach Carlos a lot. You guys are always fun to talk soccer with. So getting back, just real quickly, the Americans, we throw around the term derby a lot because we watch the Premier League on Saturday mornings. Now we think we're experts about how the English talk about soccer. What does the word derby mean to you, and would it apply to a game against McLean?
Derby actually means a horse race, but a derby is a battle between two teams. So, I mean, you guys butcher our language so much. I laugh when I meet people and they go, "Oh, I said, what are you doing in America?" And like somebody from a different country, they say, "I came to America to learn English." I'm like, "Well, you're 3,000 miles in the wrong place because they don't speak English here."
Yeah.
So
okay. Well, is it written Derby or is it written Derby?
It is spelt Derby, like the football team, but the football team is pronounced Derby County as well. So the pronunciation for us is Derby. So it's a Derby.
Well, it's not our fault. You guys can't pronounce your own language correctly.
Well, I mean, you guys can't spell. We spell colour C-O-L-O-U-R-U. I mean, some of the words you butcher. How do you pronounce aluminum or whatever?
Aluminum, I think.
Yeah.
You shouldn't ask me these questions. I can hardly speak. But anyway, would you consider under the proper English, would that be a derby in your mind?
Yeah, derby, a local rivalry between two teams that sort of live and play in the same territory.
Okay, great.
Tottenham, Arsenal, North London derby, Manchester United, Man City, Liverpool, Everton. Although Liverpool prefer to play Man United because the hatred there is even greater and deeper. But there's lots of derbies every week in the UK because there's a lot of clubs within a small location. Some of them are meaningful and some of them not so meaningful. But I learned very hard about McLean my very first year because the very first year it was really important for us to kind of lose the game because had we won the game, we would have had a much more difficult game in states. In district terms. So I threw the game, much to the chagrin of everybody in the school, but they were really happy because we won our first district game, which we never would have won if we'd beaten McLean.
Yeah. So and you cashed a nice bet against your own team as well. So there's always that. One thing I liked about my son playing at Yorktown is we had 3 derbies. We definitely had Langley and McLean were huge rivalries for us. McLean is so close to us. Langley, both teams were really highly rated.
WL was your big one, right?
I mean, it's just unbelievable because the students come out for that. I mean, you'll have 1,000 students there for a game like that, and it's huge.
Well, a lot of them go to the same middle school, and then they catapult to different high schools. So that's why they all sort of know each other.
Exactly, and all 4 of those schools, and even Wakefield to some degree, and Marshall to some degree, the kids all play travel together, so the kids know each other really well, right. And it's fun to see. Well, so you guys are defending state champs, and kind of like this year, nobody would have picked you as a favorite going into the season, even though the team that you ended with was a very talented team due to some great midseason transactions by yourself. But when you look back on last year's state champions, what does that mean to you? I know. Talking to my son Chandler, and by the way, you did ask about him before we got online. He's doing great, but it still sticks to him and me that he was on 2 great teams, and we never won a state championship. We won some hardware, but never got over the hump and got championship. What does it mean to you looking back, the fact that you won last year, or is that kind of water under the bridge and you've already moved on to this year?
I think when I was younger, it was a little bit more exciting. It's more enjoyable for me to see the happiness in the players and the excitement in the players. And I think the best part is I know they'll have those memories, even when they're 55 and 60 and 75 and they're having a couple of drinks with their mates, or maybe they bump into someone that was at the game or played with them. Those memories are, I think, really empowering and valuable. And pride is a big thing. You can never take away from anybody, whether it's an individual sport or a team sport, that they won a state championship. So I think from that perspective, it's really nice. I mean, obviously, you know, we all like winning. If we didn't like winning, the human race wouldn't be moving forward. So you know, I enjoy winning. But the second you win, you know, you put another. Well, it's really hard to repeat, you know, because especially in high school, it's extremely difficult. You've got changing personnel, changing players all the time. So. And then we've lost valuable leadership, but it's great to watch other kids sort of rise to that. And it's you know, it's I don't know what to say really. It's a lot of fun, and I look forward to see how this season develops. We're very, very different than we were last year.
Well, how are the kids doing from last year? And I got to know them well because again, I was at all the games. Billy O, I know Dante is no longer playing. DeSato, I believe. Cole Fisher was a kid. Ethan, I forgot Ethan's last name.
Perez.
Yeah, he was your
Peretta. Yeah, I suck at names as well, so don't worry about it.
Exactly. So how are the kids? Have you heard from those guys? How's everybody doing?
Well, Ethan Garner. Ethan came out to a game. Billy's been out to a game. Owner's been on the phone. Cole's invisible, but he was invisible when he was with us. He's terrific, but he's not around. Yeah, I've heard from a couple of them, and as their school ends, they'll probably start coming out to more, especially if we look reasonably decent as a team. You know, we got hammered by. We played really badly one night against York.
Woodson.
Yeah, thank you. It was a horrific experience, but you know, it was a good lesson. But you know, tomorrow, you know, McLean are meant to be really, really good, and frankly, they did really, really well last year. I mean, they did extremely well based upon they defended valiantly every game. Right, it was their defending that really carried them. And then this year, they've got that history of learning how to win with desire, and they've got ability going forward. So they're kind of the complete package. So, you know, South Lakes are meant to be extremely, extremely good, especially when you listen to their coach. He talks that they're as good as they would have ever been before. In the first half we played them, we were absolutely, I don't think we could get out of our half, but in the second half we kind of took over the game. So that was a positive thing right there. So we'll see how we do. I mean, we're very different, but you know, end of the day, you know, kids, they go to sleep the same way, they wake up the same way, they eat the same way, they train the same way. It's all, who really wants it, right? I don't think there's any golden superstars that are changing football games. I think it's about passion, desire, and they're all technically good enough. You just got to work a little bit harder. But
yeah, I understand Carlos is not playing. It's not playing high school this year, and I know that Ona. I know he's playing Division I. I've followed him a little bit on Instagram, but you know, Carlos is not playing this year. Is that right, Carlos?
Carlos transferred to Centerville, so he's playing over at Centerville. He moved, unfortunately.
Okay.
So yeah. He's playing over there. So we look forward to hopefully playing them and beating them and reminding him what it was like to wear green, because he had his team photograph taken with us, and then he left and transferred. So he's on our team photograph. He's probably on their team photograph as well. Yeah.
Carlos Calderon. Yeah. So you know, one thing. He's a great kid. Chandler grew up playing in the same club with him, Dorados. But one thing about these teams is, and I've watched Coach Carlos this year, or even last year, he took a player, Griffin Lust, who was always a midfielder, turned him into a wing, and then we ended up having injuries, and he ended up putting him in right back, and he made all district. He had a good season. A lot of times, when you get a high school roster, you got to figure out where the pieces fit. Like last year, I think one of your biggest decisions that you made was moving Dante to striker, because Dante was a threat in the air. He was a great athlete. He had the technical ability to play that at the high school, no doubt about it. But Ona was off injury, so you could afford to lose Dante in the back. So how much stock, when you're rebuilding a lineup, do you put into what the kids think they play? When a kid tells you, "Coach, I'm a midfielder," do you listen to that, or do you find spots where the kids can really help your team?
I think I listened. I've been lucky to be around some good coaches, and I listened to a lot of coaches, not from just football, but from multiple sports. And I'm trying to, like ice hockey. If you look at the top ice hockey teams, I've never played, and I can't even stand up on skates. I look like Bambi at best, right? But if you watch some of these top ice hockey teams, they retain the top 3 or 4 players, and they rotate the cannon fodder from lines 2 and down, because the same message every game from every coach. I mean, unfortunately, ice hockey has become a little bit boring, in my opinion. They work so hard to keep the puck, but then they dump it and chase it. Like the old days of Yager getting the blue line, he didn't want to dump it, he'd cycle and keep the puck. So those days have gone, but some of the top teams still do that, but it's dump and chase. But it's all about hard work in ice hockey. So either they fire the coach and bring a new coach in that screams the same thing and they start skating hard again, or they change the players. So and so I've watched that. So I'm a big proponent of hard work on the football aspect. I'm a big proponent of listening to players, and I've also been around some really good coaches. I've always said it's not so much the fault. A lot of coaches, including myself, we all like to play a certain formation or a certain way. But if you've got 5 outstanding defenders and 2 of them are athletic, then unfortunately, if you've got 5 outstanding defenders, you probably want to play a 5-5 at the back, because you want to put your best players on the field. That's what I've always been taught, and it seems to work reasonably well for us. So I always believe, clubs and teams may have the philosophy of the way they want to play, but if you've got personnel that don't excel in that environment, you as a club or a team or a group or a coach have to play your best players, and you'd be making a mistake, in my opinion, playing your better players out of position, because you're not going to get the best out of someone. Right? If you want someone who's highly proficient at playing out wide and swinging balls into the box, because he's an outstanding player, if you stuck him in the middle, he probably wouldn't be as effective, because playing out wide is a completely different animal to playing in the middle. And playing at the back is very, very different to playing in the middle, because you've got a game behind you, game in front of you. I think the biggest lesson that we try to do, and I think we've done a pretty good job the last few weeks, is trying to get our strikers to hold the ball up versus turning into pressure. But I think, tomorrow will be a really, really hard test. I think they're my favourites to win it all. They're really, really good. I haven't seen them play, but I've seen their scores, and I've heard rumours and conversations, and the kids are aware of their players, so we all live next door. In terms of, we've had 2 players out injured all year long. One of them is Aiden, who's terrific. Makes us very, very, very different football team when he plays. And
he was a left-footed kid that made the play last year.
Yeah, he was all met last year. He's had a concussion and he hasn't been able to play. And then another one, Jeffrey, he's been out for a couple of years with ACL problems, but he's slowly making his way back. And obviously we've got Ryan, who does play. He's one of our leaders at the back, and they've done really well for us. So, but when those 2 come back, and they may get some minutes tomorrow, but they won't get a lot, and they're not fit. So it's going to be a really hard game for them to play. The weather's now starting to get warmer, so that's going to make a difference to people's fitness. Coming back from spring break, we didn't do anything because people are out of town. So, you ask people to run, we're going to find out if they did. I was out running with my son during spring break, and his fitness I thought was reasonable. I realized it was horrendous, and it's improved a lot because of what he did during spring break. But the reality is most players are unfortunately really unfit. All these kids, they go off to college and they always come back and say, I wish I was as fit as I am in college when I was playing in high school. And I said, well, I told you, but I just don't want to, it's not, I want to play football. I don't want to run players. I'm not a track coach. I'm trying to be a football coach. But
well, that's the challenge of coaching at Langley. They have the hardship of going to Martinique and Punta Cana for spring break or wherever else.
Actually, I went to Punta Cana. It's really inexpensive, so probably not there. So but it's really nice.
It shows how much I know. But
it's really nice, all inclusive. I have to recommend it.
Exactly, it shows it so we're nice. So, well, I know last year your challenge was, and Chandler would say you guys were very strong and physical in the midfield. There was never a lot of time on the ball for him and any midfielder that played against you guys, and you were strong at back. But one of your challenges last year was replacing Phil, and it was unclear early in the year where your goals were going to come from. How about this year? Are you guys getting some goals? Do you have some guys that can put the ball in the back of the net?
We've got a couple of guys that have scored, but I think we're a team that scores goals, not individuals. I've got a new lad coming to the school called Carlos, who seems to be finding the back of the net pretty well. So it's a team game, and we've got to create chances. I'm a believer, if you create 20 chances a game, you're going to score more goals than if you create 3 chances a game, right? So it's a numbers game. So we'll see how we do. I mean, it's different. It's hard to score goals. That's why they pay strikers lots of money. And to be honest with you, defending. I mean, all the positions. If you really analyze football all the way through, every position is mission critical. You can't say, every coach at Trust, I hope I get a centre back, a centre mid, and a striker, and then those players I can move out. I want to build down the spine. But the reality, every position is really important, and it's important to get everybody as a group. I feel that you've got to have a group that hates to lose. If you have a group that hates to lose, they're probably going to win more than they lose. So if you have a group that accepts losing, then that's the big problem. I'm very lucky. I probably get criticized because we keep a lot of players, or I choose to keep a lot of players on the rosters. I'm a big believer in give someone a chance, right? So if you say having tryouts for 3 days across a field and playing 7v7 and maybe one day of 11v11 is not really, in my humble opinion, a fair opportunity for a lot of players. So I end up keeping more, which is difficult to manage and frustrating for some of the guys and frustrating for some of them because they don't get to play. But as an example, in our last game, I decided to pull up, even though I got 30 odd kids on varsity, I pulled up the young lad on the JV team, and he played against South Lakes. And that kid left everything on the field and more. It may have not been a polished performance, but he sacrificed his lungs and his body, and he made us a better team because he gave 110% of everything he's got. And if I could find 11 that did that every game, I promise you we'd win a whole lot more. And that was it from as when I see players give 110%, and maybe some guys need to do some extracurricular activities to feel good. But when I see someone give 110%, it really warms my heart. I love people to work hard.
Yeah, I thought you kept so many players, 30 players, so like if you win a state championship, they have enough collective strength to carry you off the field. But
I need a few more. I've gained a few pounds. So
exactly.
20.
Yeah, well, Coach Carlos does the same thing. He doesn't keep a big roster, but he uses JV in America. Generally in sports, our JVs and varsities are different teams. But Coach Carlos has always used his JV team, and he moves players up and down. He's got no problem bringing a kid off the JV who's been playing. He puts them right in the lineup, sees what they can do. It's just a place where kids can play, and when he's ready to use them, he brings them up, and so that the teams kind of play in concert.
Yeah, I think it's really good to have a program and not look at it as JV and varsity, and we try and do the same. And in our school environment back home, when you went to the senior school, you had a first team, a second team, a third team of 18-year-olds. So only 12 kids on each roster. So that's 3 teams right there. Then you had a Colts and a senior Colts. That's 16-year-olds, 2 teams, an A and a B team. And then you had Foals, 14 below. So you had kids from 14. So we had 7 teams of football teams in one school, coaches and buses going in different directions. And it wasn't a problem. And we're in a wealthier country, and we have to have just one team. It's kind of a little bit disheartening. There should be more opportunity to play. And also, I think it creates player movement, and player movement creates desire and opportunity. When you have big rosters and kids don't get to play, it takes a tough kid to kind of deal with that in some kind, because psychologically that can be difficult. So I try and give players chances. I think it's important that players listen and watch games. Sometimes you see kids talking about something else other than the game on the sideline. And then when they get their chance, it's not going to help them because they weren't paying attention to what the coach is looking for the kid to go in, or looking for changes, or looking for. I mean, the reality is when you make changes, we should get better to a degree because you're putting on someone that's a little bit fresher and hopefully has been listening to what's going on. But
well, you didn't seem to know that much about the McLean team this year. Last year, when you played the McLean team early in the year, I actually came to that game. You gave me a hard time because you accused me of scouting. They kicked the ball to Gage Lyons the whole game. Gage is a fantastic striker that they had. Later on in the year, Gage wasn't playing on the team, and they played more collectively. They changed their game. It's almost like so now
he's back apparently.
Yeah, he's back, and he's leading scorer. I think he's got 10 or more already, and then he had a player named Joe Margita, who's also back from last year. He's got 5 goals. A left footer named Calf Eaton, redhead kid, does a good job, and also a good basketball player. They're a decent team. How much time do you spend? They're more than a decent team, but you don't spend a lot of time scouting teams. Is that because this is just the first time around? And you'll figure
I think it's really important for us to try and play. I think if the reality is they're good, I can scout them until the cows come home, but if we don't play well, it's a waste of time, right? So I know a lot of people spend hours and hours and hours looking at opposition, but I've never seen even pro teams play the same way twice. I mean, Arsenal got blown off the park against Liverpool yesterday. Who would have expected that? Right, so it was 2-2, but really Liverpool should have won. A couple of great saves, but you can't. I care if our team gives 110%, doesn't make little mistakes, defends well, creates chances, doesn't mentally switch off, then we have a chance. Doesn't matter. I don't care who we play. I don't care if we play even better teams in high school. The reality is, if you stay mentally alert, you should be in a good situation at the end of the game. I mean, our players. I've got players that play ECNL National League, ECNL Regional League, MLS Next, NCSL, EDP. So we've got a decent group of kids, and some of those players will try out at different clubs, and some will get better, and some kids that are maybe not that good this year, a light bulb will go on, and maybe they'll train more intensely over the next 12 months, and they'll come back 10 times better than they are now. But so, we could play. They may have who knows? Maybe someone put some saline solution like me in their water tomorrow, and they're all ill, so they can't play. So what's the point? I mean, bad joke, but the reality is, you can't. I don't see the point in scouting new teams. Like no one plays the same way twice ever.
So last year we played Oakton, and we had played them the year before, and they had an incredible striker named Ethan Gregory. He's playing at the University of Maryland. Unbelievable kid, fast, can shoot from distance. So we beat them handily last year. And I said after the game to Chandler, I said, "What was the strategy to stop Ethan Gregory?" And he says, "Coach didn't even mention him before. He didn't even mention him before the game." So here we are playing against one of the top strikers in the whole area, and Coach Carlos didn't even mention him to the players. And the players just figured it out for themselves. They knew who he was, and they just didn't let him get behind them.
I look at we VOR games, and I look at game film. We've conceded probably 9 goals. We haven't conceded one good goal this season. Every goal we've conceded is because of a mistake we've made with the ball. Every single goal. Mm-hmm. Every single goal. Not even, we haven't conceded a good goal. Right? And we conceded goals because people worked hard, but we haven't conceded a goal because, every goal we gave the ball away. We did something silly with the ball in an area where we shouldn't have been doing something silly with the ball, where we had better options. And so if we can start to eliminate that, then you become a team that's difficult to beat. And if you're a team that is difficult to beat, then you have a chance to win anything. And I think any coach would tell you, if you don't give up a goal, you got a great chance. You got a great chance not to lose, right? So and we'll find a way to score in 80 minutes or 85 minutes or whatever, however long the clock runs, and then I'm sure someone will be upset with a refereeing decision, which is irrelevant because you play for 80 minutes. Who cares what the referees do? The referees are fine.
Do you approach this game differently than the non-district games? Does it mean that much more? Because obviously, you want to win.
It's our first district game, so it's better to be 1-0 in the district than it is to be 0-1. So, I think, I said to the boys that before the South Lakes game, the next 2 games are, in my humble opinion, the most important games of our season. If we play well against South Lakes and well against McLean, you can win the states. End of story.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So far, the key to the games are just don't make mistakes and try to create chances the way Langley always does.
Well, at the end of the day, it says Langley across your shirt. It doesn't say Steve or John, right? So the team wins. And over the course of my life, I think professionally and in youth football, I've seen a million goals that are really like bad goals to score, but players often look for that perfect pass or that perfect shot. The reality is there's a million games of football professional every weekend, and we see the highlights of a few great goals. But if you watched every Premiership goal and every La Liga goal and every Bundesliga goal every Sunday night, so many of them are garbage, right? But we get flooded with highlight goals, and we start to fantasize that every goal has got to be scored that way. That's utter rubbish. Like it's very, even professionally, you see some players make some horrendous mistakes that you would personally cut off of your high school team if a player did that. Yet they're getting paid to play. So players will make mistakes under duress. It's just very normal. So can you minimize those mistakes? And I think we've got a great group of kids, good parents. It's a great school. I'm happy with the group we got, and we'll see how we do. So
Yeah. Well, I'm not asking you to look beyond this game, but generally, it looks like it's the same cast of characters this year. It looks like Washington Liberty is going to be strong. Yorktown, of course, is going to be strong. It seems like things haven't changed that much in the district.
No, I think there's some schools outside in the Loudon area that are a threat this year. People keep saying Liberty. I disagree. I think there's other teams. I think there's a lot more balanced this year. I think it's a lot wider open this year. Although I think South Lakes are good. I think McLean are very good. W&L, I don't think they lost anybody except a centre back. So I think they're going to be good. But there's a couple of schools outside. I'm not sure the names, but I know there's a couple of schools outside that will be a factor. And if we're fortunate enough to be playing that late, then we'll grab it with both hands and shake it and won't let go. But it's going to be very, very hard. But I think when we get these two boys back, and we got, unfortunately, one of the kids got injured over spring break, so that's a problem. He works hard. He really helps us. But we'll see what it's like today when I see him at practice.
Right. So you have this team probably is not quite as talented as last year's team, or do you think this team could be on the same level if the pieces come together?
We're different. I haven't seen our team play because I haven't had all of them on the field yet. Mm-hmm. But I think when Jeffrey is able to play 90 minutes in centre mid the way he can play, he'll change our team dramatically because he'll relieve a lot of pressure. Other players having to do certain things that I'm asking them to do now while he's not around. We haven't had an aggressive player up top that's held the ball. With other players go and do a really good job. You have a freshman that's playing for us a significant amount of minutes and doing very, very well for us for a young guy. Poor guy's I think he's broken every bone in his body, but he's broken his nose, and then he broke his nose in a club game and played with a mask, couldn't stand the mask, took the mask off, and then got whacked in the nose again. So it's a good group of kids, and we're just different. I don't want that group last year was special. Any team that wins states is special. There's no doubt about that, right? Because in order to win, you have to go through a lot of different, win a lot of different games against a lot of different opponents, right? So we had to play different games and different levels last year. This group is still warming up, but I think there's enough there. We'll see. I mean, we're just not prolific. We've got to defend better, and we have to be a lot more focused. But the other team last year, I think we only gave up 14 goals last year, so that was pretty good. We're not tracking that this year, but maybe we can jump on board soon.
Yeah, very, very, very physically imposing team you had last year. Now, last question, Coach. I know that McLean has a new coach. His name is Leland Jameson. Last year's coach, a lot of folks didn't really know him around the area. He was kind of a quiet guy. Do you know McLean's coaches? Is that something you think about? Is the chess match between coaches?
No. It's not personal. It's not the kids. The boys play, the lads play, and if they win, terrific. It's them win, and if we lose, it's my loss, right? So all I care is we give. If we can look in the mirror after the game when we go to bed and brush our teeth, and we can look in the mirror and say you gave your best, that's all you can ask for, right? So, and if you need a bit of luck, but I don't believe in luck. I believe if you work hard, you create your own luck. Right? So you can't win the lottery unless you buy a ticket, right? So so the same with football. You got to create chances that you put your body on the line. You're going to block a tackle. You're going to win that tackle. You're going to get up for that header that you got no chance of winning that header. You're going to get up and try and win it so they don't get a free header. Some players elect to let a player get a free header and then afterwards regret it, right? So it's not a beautiful game. It's a war with a few beautiful moments in it, but it's not a beautiful game. That's a fake word made up by FIFA. But it's never seen a beautiful game in my life. I've seen plenty of beautiful moments in a game, but I've never seen a beautiful game.
Not when you play Route 1 like Langley, but so
Route 1.
So Coach, look, thanks for doing this. I had such a good time last year following your run to the state final. I'm so glad you guys won it. If we couldn't win it. But I'm looking forward to. I'm excited that it's districts. I know we're gonna have some great matchups in the next few weeks. and then next thing you know, we're going to be in knockout again. So
it could be a tough game tomorrow. So you can bring some salt and vinegar and you can rub it on an open wound after the game if it doesn't go well. But
exactly,
I have a lot. We'll see. I have a lot of faith in the guys. They're a good group, and take one game at a time.
Well, they're in great hands. You're a great coach. So I know you're going to do your best to put your best team on the field. So it'll be fun. Now I'm cheering for you until you play Coach Carlos and my boys at Yorktown. So
make sure you come and say hello tomorrow.
Yeah, I will. See you. I appreciate you doing this, Coach. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right, man.
See you. Bye.